the bouncers. Big, big monkey man.
I have two jobs right now, which I've always had throughout college, but I'm a cook at one restaurant, but I also work the door. I'm a bouncer. I was actually going to Caldwell Community College, and I was taking a class just for culture or whatever, and one of the guys that was in that class with me, it was a capoeira class, which is like a fighting style dance for Brazilian stuff. And we were doing our little dances, and I kicked him in the head by accident. We're not supposed to actually hit each other. And he turned out to be the manager, the bouncing manager at the library back in 2007. So I did that, and then he offered me a job. Primarily, we're just in charge of making sure the people that are of age can drink. The people that are not of age, we know who they are, and they cannot drink. So that's the main thing. And then, of course, anybody that's starting problems with the servers, the bartenders, or if they're fighting each other, we have to deal with that. First night of bouncing is really awkward because you feel weird being an authority figure, but you learn eventually that you have to. If you act weak, then no one's going to listen to you, and then it gets dangerous. But it's just, you have to act a certain way, or else bad things can happen. You have to make sure they know that you mean what you say, and that you will follow through with it.
No, I'm not naturally confrontational, but at the same time, I'm not going to back down, if threatened. I don't go looking for trouble, but if trouble finds me, I'll deal with it when it happens. I've been bouncing for about almost 2.5 years now. I was in the Marine Corps before I started bouncing. My brother was going to school up here. He was bouncing at the time, and he needed a little help at a couple of places. He needed some extra guys, so I'd come up from Charlotte every weekend and started working up here. And I like Boone, so I moved up here, and I've just kept on bouncing the entire time. I tend to take more of a watchful type approach, try to judge people when they come in. You can feel, at least I tend to be able to feel people's energy, what type of mood they're in. If they look at you in the eye and they smile when you check their ID, they tend to be happier. Chances are you're not going to have to worry about them. If people come in, they're a little, confrontational at the door, or they give you crap about checking your ID or something like that. I tend to keep a better eye on them because they already are showing negative energy, and they tend to cause more trouble than the nice, happy people.
My first real physical confrontation with somebody was at the library in 2007. I was just working the door, and back then there were 5 of us that worked in there because there were a lot of problems over there. And somebody ran out the door. I didn't know why, but I saw my guys run out the door, and they're a little heftier, so they can't run as fast. But the guy wound up booking it up the hill behind the library towards the funeral home, and I was about 180 pounds back then, so I could really haul. And I wound up chasing the guy real far, almost towards that park. And I think he collapsed, and I just jumped on top of him and secured his arms and brought him back to the bar. He ran out on his tab, and we got the police over there. So that was the first time that really serious stuff happened. It's a good job as far as just scheduling because I can have 2 jobs. Like when I'm not in school anymore, I can have a day job and I can still bounce if I need the money because you only go in at 10 o'clock at night, which is atypical for any job, and you work till 2 or 3 in the morning. So it's real good for anybody that wants to work more than one job. It's one of the main reasons why I got into it.
Job-wise, bouncing is probably 95% just watching people. Literally all you're doing is babysitting drunks. So I just tend to watch, and I try to anticipate a problem before it happens and try to deal with it before an actual confrontation begins, before they start, throwing blows or whatnot. A lot of it depends on the type of crowd. Certain bars you'll have more of a high energy type atmosphere, like the bars where people go to dance and stuff like that. They tend to be more amped up, just have a lot more free energy, I guess. And they tend to behave differently than the hippier type bars where it's more relaxed, where people just go to sit around, have a beer, talk with their friends, eat. So basically I just break it down into where I'm working, and then from there I just try to feel it out. You hear people's problems. People tell you, you know, oh, this has been bothering me. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's people you really don't want to be listening to. You know, just talk your ear off and corner you. So there's good and bad. When I'm bouncing, I don't want to say I put up a front, but I definitely behave a little different. You know, I'm not as jovial. I won't joke around with people as much. I always try to just keep an air of, you know, like, don't bother me, don't mess with me, you know, that type stuff.
Really, now that I've been doing it longer, people are drunk, you understand that they're drunk, and you just don't take what they say to face value, but you just go with the flow until you have to put them in check. Now I'm pretty laid back. I don't really start anything until someone else starts something, and then I have to fix the problem.
What's the worst aspect of bouncing?
Worst aspect is just seeing the worst part of people constantly, you know, day in and day out, you know, every week. You know, you'll see people that get drunk and, you know, will treat people bad, will be calling people names, or, you know, they may be picking on other people that they don't think as cool as them. Just seeing the real negative sides of that alcohol can have on people. Recently, we had one girl who had way too much to drink at another bar. She came to our bar, had a few drinks, left, and then in the process, she somehow lost her pants and proceeded to run back into our bar with no pants on. That was pretty shocking. And then she sat outside. After we got her outside, she sat outside for 20 minutes with no pants on with the cops out there. And it took her another 10 minutes to get her pants on in front of the cops and everything like that. That's probably the craziest, most recent one.
There was this one guy that kept on jumping the fences, and he thought it was funny, and we can't have people jumping the fence because we have to know who's coming in and out. He did it 1 or 2 times, and I told him not to do it, and they did it again just to spite me right in front of me, and his buddies in their truck had pulled up to leave, so I wound up grabbing him when he was halfway over the fence and threw him into his truck, and I thought it was over. And then they, I guess, drove around, and I was just talking to the owner who was standing right next to me, and eventually he ran around behind my back, jumped over one side of the fence, and then once I saw him in the corridor, or whatever you want to call it, he jumped over the other side of the fence, and once I saw him, I took like 2 or 3 steps, and I just speared the guy, and we skidded on the ground. I wound up skinning my hand real bad, but I tackled him pretty hard. His face hit the ground, and he tried to get up, and I wound up having to choke him until the cops came, and his buddies tried to fight us off, but the cook and the owner helped me out with that. But that was probably the worst as far as hurting someone else that I've done.